Hello, this is Arturelia Anime Room Reviews. I'm Arturo, and today I'll be reviewing Evangelion 1.0 or 1.11. It's basically a rebuild of the original series of Evangelion, except in better quality. However, does this match up with the original series? Even though the original series had crazy out there sort of over-the-top stuff, does this go above all that? And is it actually better than the original if you guys like the original Evangelion? Well, that's why you're here. Today I'll be reviewing Evangelion 1.11 or 1.0. Let's go. The Earth is in chaos due to the second impact. Humanity is fighting against an alien race called Angels, which by this point you would already know if you've seen the original. But yeah, they're trying to cause the third impact. Shinji will be thrown into a machine called an Eva to fight against these aliens. This weapon is humanity's last hope for survival against these angels. Two pilots, Rei and Shinji, will fight against them to save humankind from extinction. The story itself is just a retelling of the first few episodes of the show, except better quality. However, there is a little bit of some changes in this film from the show, so you're going to see that in this film since it's a reboot, rebuild, or something more sinister. Back to subject. But yeah, you're just going to notice it's very different compared to the main series, or the show. And the soundtrack has some pretty impactful ones. Some of the soundtracks from the show, they're just remade for this film. Nice quality. The animation looks gorgeous and great. 3D animations look nice, and yeah, they blend in quite well. Yeah, it looks very nice. The action scenes are top-notch with new animation, and if you liked, the original, you're gonna see some nice remake of those scenes, classic scenes. While we know these characters already, since I'm not going to go into detail, I can say that there are a bit of changes when it comes to these characters from the show. While Shinji, as we all know, is a whiny baby. Due to his depression, you could either understand what he's going through, but then you could also be annoyed at him at the same time. There is a bit of changes with him in the rebuilds.
I guess you could say Shinji has maybe less of that mentality, only slightly. His personality, I mean, it's still the same, but he acts a little bit different than in the show itself. And here, maybe he's a little or slightly more determined to do things. On the other hand, he still has those moments.
Rei, while she had her moments in the show, she was emotionless most of the time, like a doll following orders. And here, she does have a bit of, I guess, more emotion. Yeah, just a tiny speck of more emotion in here, but still kind of the same. However, the rest of the characters are basically the same. Shinji's dad is still an asshole. Misato once in a while gets drunk, and yada yada yada. Yeah, most of the characters are the same except for little tweaks with Shinji and Rei. There's not really much to talk about. They're just playing their roles like they did in the original show.
However, though, Rizuko, or Rizuko, I will say this, in the original show, which I didn't mention her character that much in my review for that, just because there was so much to go into with all the characters. But here's a difference. In the original, she had more backstory, more character development, and other stuff about her that we got to know through the show. In here, though, it is completely different. She does not get much character time or development or much of her past, to be honest, unlike Misato. So this is probably one con about the film itself, which most people are probably not going to like because they rushed her character. Well, not rush, more like they didn't go through her character past, or just more information about her, more detail.
As for my enjoyment of Evangelion 1.11, I will say I actually really enjoyed this film when I first watched it on Toonami. Now, a little bit of a back history with me and Evangelion. I actually did skim around the original show back in like 2011, early 2011 when I was 14. And, you know, I didn't watch it from beginning to end until like years after the fact. But then when Toonami came back and they played this, I watched it. I technically watched the rebuilds start to finish. So it's an odd experience, but I can say I actually did enjoy this film for what it is. Yes, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't as out there as later down the road with the films, but in general, just the show and the series itself is out there. But this one didn't really bother me as much as the others would down the road. And this is actually a decent Evangelion rebuild film, or reboot. If you want more Evangelion, if you're a fan of it, then this is a start to a new story. Just a retelling of the original, and then through the course of the films, a new story.
I want to say this, though, about the film that most people will agree. It does rush a lot of details from the main source material. And some people are probably going to dislike that because it just doesn't develop a lot of the characters as much as the original show did. The original show did fine with developing Shinji's depression. Rei, okay. Then Masato and Rizuko, if I'm even saying that right. Yeah, most people prefer the original over this. I mean, I liked this film, but I understand the fact that it was rushed with some of the plot, some of the character development, some of their backstory. Some of the characters don't get much detail about them, especially Rizuko. So I'm just warning you guys now, as much as I do like the film itself, you are going to be a bit disappointed with the character development here because it's too rushed. It's like, yeah, like a Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood or a Hellsing Ultimate.
Overall, there's not really much to talk about. If you know the story and the characters, you're going to get basically a reboot of this show and story. But you're going to have a bit of changes, and by the second film, it's going to go in a different direction.
Unit 0 has switched to auxiliary power. 35.
Evangelion 1.11 was a decent film. It goes right back from where the show started, but it's going to start to take a different approach. And you kind of notice that. But it's really good. I actually really enjoyed this film when it was on Toonami. And it was a blast. I will give it a 7.5 out of 10. And that's basically it. There's nothing much to talk about after that. Now, I'm obviously going to recommend the second film. And then there's the third film. And then we have the fourth film. That wraps up the rebuilds. Actually, probably by the time you're watching this, you may have seen my other review of Neon Genesis Evangelion. I would still recommend watch the originals first, including the effed up film, and then the rebuilds. Well, this is Arturelia Anime Room Reviews, signing off.